On the remote island of Devon in the Canadian Arctic, a group of NASA explorers have come to learn how to live and work on Mars. Part of the work here will be to field test equipment that they hope will eventually be used on exploration trips to the distant planet. Mars, sometimes known as the Red Planet, is a harsh place. The surface is freezing and the terrain rugged. At night, surface temperatures can drop to minus 73 degrees Celsius and below, and the atmosphere is poisonous to breathe. Add to that radiation and dust storms, and it becomes clear that surviving there would be an impressive feat. That's what keeps researchers coming back to Devon each year. Its rocky, treeless landscape is a kind of Mars on Earth. 39 million years ago, Devon Island was hit by a large meteorite that created a 20-kilometer wide crater. Today, it's called the Houghton Crater, and it almost exactly resembles the thousands of craters that cover the landscape of Mars. While it's safer and more easily reached than Mars, Devon comes with its own dangers: unpredictable weather, high winds, and a predator that thinks humans might be lunch. Despite the risks, project director and scientist Pascal Lee feels training here is what's best for the team's mission.
Copy loud and clear.
By being faced with all the operational realities of having to explore a place for real, you are precisely building this experience to really plan an expedition where all of these elements cannot be left to chance. You have to plan it well.
When Lee heard about Devon Island, he was convinced that this was the ideal place to train. When people think of Mars, they usually think of astronauts in spacesuits. Here on Devon Island, Lee and his team are, in fact, field testing the NASA Mars Concept suit to see how it withstands harsh conditions. The suit is big, bulky, and according to people who've tried it, uncomfortable and confining. Adi Overbeek and Stanley Kosmider are the suit engineers.
You're at the bar, you're talking to someone, and they ask you, well, what do you do? Oh, I work on spacesuits. Oh, that's funny guy.
Depending on the perspective, designing a Mars suit is either a great engineering challenge or a mechanical nightmare. Mars is incredibly dusty, and the suit's outer surface will constantly be coated with a film of Mars dust. And because Mars is so far away, explorers will need to spend at least a year using the same suits day after day. They need to be extremely strong, reliable, and easily repaired in order to survive for the entire duration of the trip. Overbeek has spent his career working on spacesuits. He loves the challenge of making one work for use on Mars.
You have to think about what they're really going to be operating in and thinking that, hey, this isn't it. We have to make the systems more robust. We have to make the systems more user-friendly for them to operate in a system that's even more severe than this.
Mars and Earth share many similarities. They both have about the same amount of dry land, and they both have roughly a 24-hour day, which means that plants can conceivably be grown there. Therefore, Canadian scientist Alan Berenstein is attempting to grow plants in the Mars-like conditions of Devon.
Outside the greenhouse, you can see that there's a hybrid wind and solar power generation system that charges a bank of batteries, and now we do have our own independent power system in place. And so now we are running in a totally autonomous mode with our own power and communication system, which will allow us to operate 24 hours a day, 12 months a year.
The greenhouse can operate on self-generated electrical output, even through the long dark winter when nobody is living on Devon Island. Mars's atmosphere may be thin and poisonous to humans, however, it's not too thin in which to fly. So researchers have proposed using robotic planes as substitute explorers. This UAV, or Unmanned Aerial Vehicle, is an advanced scout designed to search for and photograph areas of interest. But a pilot doesn't fly this plane. It thinks for itself. Project contractor Greg Pisinich calls the device the Flying Graduate Student on Mars.
He wants something that has enough intelligence to make decisions, to look for the right signs, to follow a hypothesis.
The images the plane captures reveal an alien-looking landscape. It's a great tool for explorers right here on Devon Island. The NASA Houghton team often needs mapping assistance in order to reach remote areas of the crater. It's also a step toward developing possible tools for future Mars explorers once they reach Mars.
That's where we want to go.
Right.
British scientist Charlie Cockle and expedition leader Pascal Lee need to collect some samples on the shore of the island. That's where the Martian rover comes in. It's the only way to get there. Lee, who aims to be the first person to land on Mars, wants to push the limits of the Martian rover. For this expedition, they are combining the technology of the Martian rover with that of the thinking Mars airplane.
So we'll head out from camp, go past in front of Marine Peak. We won't actually go through Anderson Pass. We go out this way.
NASA's Bill Clancy has come to learn how Lee and Cockle translate air photos into useful information to find the best route on the ground.
It looks like a piece of paper that has gotten wet and it's been crumpled up. It's just full of wrinkles. And Pascal looks at this and sees valleys and these valley networks, and he sees canyons, and he understands cliffs and gullies here. It's remarkable.
Pascal and Charlie seem to be easily finding the route using the photos.
Down here.
Good.
That's where we want to go.
Right.
We want to find a route down to the right there. Probably skirt around.
Are we there yet? I want an ice cream. Just 10 more minutes.
The two men are making good progress toward the coastline, and the rover is doing well. They've now traveled further south than any other Devon Island team. Never has the island's terrain looked so much like Mars. Red hills and valleys as far as the eye can see. The team continues to make great progress, but then Steve Brahm, a fellow researcher back at the camp, calls. A huge storm is moving in, he tells them, and the team lies in its path. Steve gives them an order: come home now. Even though they didn't make it to the coast, the expedition was a success. The men tested key systems: air photos, long-range radios, advanced scouting techniques, and the rover itself. In this harsh and remote location, being able to return to the starting point with everyone and everything safe makes the trip a success. The field testing on Devon Island proved valuable and effective, but when will they be able to build systems that can withstand the far harsher condition on Mars?
We know that it's man's destiny to go out and do space exploration. It's always time to think about what you want to do in the future.
These scientists are preparing for their futures right here, using their own version of Mars on Earth.